Hi children, good morning. Today I am start with a new topic, menstrual cycle, a process of ovulation. Menstruation, what is menstrual cycle? Here is a question. In terminologically, if we speak, cyclic changes which has taken place in the ovary and uterus of the female reproductive tract is called menstrual cycle. It is a cyclical change, isn't it? And there are various phases involved in the menstrual cycle, and let me discuss one by one in this topic. The cyclic events that takes place in a rhythmic fashion during the reproductive period of a woman's life is called menstrual cycle. That is, the cyclic events takes place during the reproductive period of woman's cycle. What are the cyclic changes? I said no, the changes which has taken place in the ovaries and uterus of the female in a rhythmic fashion is called menstrual cycle. It has taken place during the reproductive period of a human female. What is the reproductive period? The period between the puberty to menopause is called reproductive period. So this rhythmic changes has taken place only during this reproductive period only. It will not take place in pre-reproductive and post-reproductive period. Okay. So in human female, the menstrual cycle starts at the age of 11 to 13 years, which marks the onset of puberty and is called menarche, and ceases around 48 to 50 years of age, and this stage is termed as menopause. Okay, hope you understood about this sentence. The reproductive period is marked by characteristic events repeated almost every month in physiologically normal women. It is 28 days with minor variation in the form of menstrual flow. The menstrual cycle consists of 4 phases. Okay, what are the 4 phases? One is menstrual or destructive phase. Another one is follicular or proliferative phase. And the third one is ovulatory phase, and fourth one is luteal or secretory phase. Okay children, so reproductive period is marked by characteristic events repeated almost every month in physiologically normal woman. This menstrual flow or menstrual cycle occurs in every month. Actually approximately it is 28 days only, but sometimes there is a minor variation in this 28 days. Sometimes it may be 29 or 30 or 27 also. So this this menstrual cycle consists of 4 phases. One is menstrual or destructive phase, another one is follicular or proliferative phase, third one is ovulatory phase, fourth one is luteal or secretory phase. Let's see one by one these phases. These phases show simultaneous synchrony of events in both ovary and uterus. That is what is the meaning of this sentence? All these 4 phases so synchrony of events, that is simultaneous events in ovary and uterus. So say for example, during follicular or proliferative phase we will take, during this phase there is some changes taken place in the ovary, and simultaneously some changes taken place in the uterus also. Like that, in all the 4 phases the changes has taken place in both uterus and ovary simultaneously. Changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by the pituitary hormones LH and FSH and ovarian hormones estrogen and progesterone. So these changes, how the changes taken place in both ovary and uterus, it is possible due to a hormone secreted by pituitary called luteinizing hormone, that is LH, and follicle stimulating hormone, that is FSH, and ovarian hormone estrogen and progesterone, right? Okay, let's see the changes taken place in the ovary, uterus, and hormonal changes in each and every phases of menstrual cycle. Let's see menstrual phase first. In the 28 days of cycle, 4 to 5 days, that is first 4 to 5 days last in menstrual phase. What happened in the ovary during this phase? During menstrual phase, development of primary follicles in the ovary has taken place. Okay, development of primary follicle. This primary follicle develop into mature Graafian follicle. Inside the mature Graafian follicle, egg is present. Egg is ruptured during the ovulation, and after ovulation egg get fertilized. These are gradual changes. Okay, let's see. So first, in menstrual phase, development of primary follicles has taken place in the ovary. And what changes has taken place in the uterus? Breakdown of uterine endometrial lining leads to bleeding. So you know very well, menstrual phase, during menstrual phase there will be a bleeding. It lasts for 4 to 5 days, everybody knows, isn't it? So changes in uterus, how this bleeding has taken place. The uterus is lined with an endometrium. Actually, uterus is made up of 3 walls. The innermost wall of the uterus is called endometrium. During menstrual phase, the progesterone and estrogen decreases and the endometrial wall getting loosened, and it's bleeding, it's coming out as bleed. That is breakdown of uterine endometrial lining and leads to bleeding. This is due to hormones such as progesterone and estrogen. The level of progesterone and estrogen decline, that is decrease, and it leads to breakdown of uterine endometrium and leads to bleeding. Okay, actually why the progesterone and why this happened? Actually, progesterone and estrogen are the hormone which makes the strong of the endometrial wall. When the level of estrogen, progesterone or decrease, automatically the endometrial wall getting loose and it started to break down and leads to bleeding. This what happened in the menstrual phase. Next one is follicular phase. It lasts for 6th to 13th day of menstrual cycle. What happened or what are the changes has taken place in the ovary? Primary follicle, already during menstrual phase, primary follicles developed inside the ovary. Okay, these primary follicles during the follicular phase grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle. So during follicular phase, primary follicle grow and mature Graafian and become a mature Graafian follicle. And what are the changes has taken place in the uterus? Endometrium regenerate through proliferation. That's why it's called as proliferation phase also. So already during the menstrual phase, all the endometrium breakdown and coming out as bleeding. So now there is no endometrium inside the uterus. So during follicular phase, the endometrium started to regeneration. And how these changes has taken place, that is primary follicle mature and become Graafian follicle, and endometrium started to regenerate by proliferation. These are the changes has taken place in the ovary and uterus respectively. How it happened? Who influenced that? This is due to FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and estrogen. Both hormones increase in its secretion. So since this hormone is since this phase is initiated by or influenced by FSH hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, this phase is called follicular phase, and also it is called as proliferative phase. Why it is called so? Because the proliferation of endometrium has taken place during this phase. So it is called what? Proliferative phase. Next, third phase is called ovulatory phase. It has taken place in the 14th day of menstrual cycle. What changes has taken place in the ovary? The Graafian follicle. Okay, already primary follicle become mature as Graafian follicle. No, inside the Graafian follicle egg is present. During ovulatory phase, the Graafian follicle rupture, the mature Graafian follicle rupture and release the ovum into the fallopian tube. This what taken place during the ovulatory phase. And what changes has taken place inside the uterus? Increase is endometrial thickness. Endometrial thickness is increased. And what hormone is involved in this? LH. LH is peak. That is, the secretion of LH is very high. So when the peak level of LH, the ovulatory phase has taken place. Next, luteal phase. It has taken place in the 15th day to 28th day of menstrual cycle. The changes in the ovaries are emptied Graafian follicle develop into corpus luteum. From the inside the Graafian follicle, the egg is present. During ovulatory phase, the Graafian follicle rupture and release the egg. Now the Graafian follicle become emptied, and this emptied Graafian follicle converted into a corpus luteum. What is corpus luteum? Actually, the corpus luteum is a temporary endocrine gland. It secretes progesterone and estrogen. Okay. So what are the changes has taken place in the uterus of female during the luteal phase? Okay, endometrium is prepared for implantation if fertilization of egg takes place, isn't it what? So during ovulatory phase, egg is released into the fallopian tube, isn't it? When it travels through the fallopian tube, if there is any sperm, fertilization has taken place and form a zygote converted into embryo come and implant in the endometrial wall of the uterus. Okay, if there won't be any fertilization நடக்கல அப்படின்னா என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னா endometrial wall again break down, getting loose and break down and leads as a bleeding. This is what happened. So if fertilization does not occur, corpus luteum degenerate and uterine wall rupture, bleeding start, and unfertilized egg is expelled out. This is what happened. So what are the hormones involved in this? Here before that, LH and FSH increased so far. Now during luteal phase, LH, FSH decrease. Then what happened? Corpus luteum produced progesterone and the level of progesterone increased, followed by a decline of menstrual bleeding occur. Suppose if there is a progesterone level increase, no problem. If it is decreased, menstrual bleeding occurs. That's it. These are the changes has taken place during the menstrual phase of female children. And what is menstrual cycle? Menstruation, if there is a 2-mark question in forfeit. Menstruation is a periodical phenomena that continues from puberty to menopause. This will happen if the released ovum is not fertilized by the sperm. Lack of menstruation generally indicate pregnancy. That's it. Next, fertilization of fetal development. What is fertilization? Fertilization in human is internal, that is fusion of male and female gamete is called fertilization. It has taken place inside the female body, and that's called internal, and occurs in the oviduct of the female genital tract, that is fallopian tube is called oviduct. It takes place usually in the ampulla of fallopian tube. In the fallopian tube, there are different phases: infundibulum, ampulla, and a narrow part is there. Among these three parts, the fertilization takes place in the ampulla region of the fallopian tube, and oocyte is alive for about 24 hours after it is released. Oocyte is the egg which is released from the Graafian follicle. Once it released from the Graafian follicle, it stay alive 24 hours in the fallopian tube, and fertilization must take place within that 24 hours. The sperm enters into the ovum and fuse with it, resulting in the formation of a zygote, and this process is called fertilization. The zygote is fertilized ovum. Next, cleavage. What is cleavage? And formation of blastula. Zygote is formed, we know very well. Zygote is a single celled one. So then the cleavage means what? Division of cells are called what? Cleavage. The first cleavage takes place about 30 hours after fertilization. Okay, fertilization takes place. After fertilization, till 30 hours after fertilization, the zygote is remain as single cell stage. After 30 hours, it started or undergo first cell division, that is called cleavage. Cleavage is a series of rapid mitotic cell division of zygote to form a mini-celled blastula. After 30 hours, the zygote undergo mitotic cell division to form 2 cells. Again, the 2 cells divided into 2 and together form 4 cells. Again, the 4 cells divided into 4 and 4. The 4 and 4 combined together form 8 cells. Like that, it divide repeatedly mitotically and form a group of cells, and this stage is called blastula stage. It is called blastocyst, which comprises an outer layer of smaller cells and inner mass of larger cells. Next, implantation. the blastocyst, that is fertilized egg, reaches the uterus and gets implanted in the uterus, and the process of attachment of blastocyst to the uterine wall is called implantation. What is implantation? So now the blastocyst, that is blastula, reaches the uterus, and once it reaches the uterus, it get attached into the endometrium of the uterus wall, and this attachment of blastocyst with the endometrium is called implantation. The fertilized egg become implanted in about 6 to 7 days after fertilization. After fertilization, the egg is implanted into the uterus after 6 to 7 days of fertilization. Next, gastrulation. Gastrulation, the transformation of blastula into gastrula and the formation of primary germ layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm by rearrangement of the cells is called gastrulation. See, blastula become structure called gastrula. What is gastrula? Gastrula is a structure which consists of 3 germ layers such as ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm by rearrangement of cells is called gastrulation. This takes place after the process of implantation. See, it's children, with this diagram you can clearly understood the various process of fertilization. Next, organogenesis, the establishment of germ layers, namely ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, initiate the final phase of embryonic development. During organogenesis, the various organs of the fetus are established from the different germ layers attaining a functional state. You know, children, ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm are the 3 germ layers. From these 3 germ layers, various organs are started to develop, and this is called what? Functional state, and this is during this state ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm are developed into various organs. This is called organogenesis. These organs attain the functional role. Next, formation of placenta and pregnancy I will discuss with you in my later class, children. Bye. And homework, menstrual cycle. Tabulate the changes taken place in the menstrual cycle. Okay, this is the only homework for you. Complete it. Bye.